what's going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a great day today, and today another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes coming up. This one not exactly an original thought, but it's something that has advanced a little bit, and it's something that I've seen some of my guildmates and some opponents in Grand Arena that haven't been doing this well, so it's something that I wanted to revisit, especially because new characters and new squads have come up. So I feel like it's worth revisiting, and that's going to be squad order composition. Now, what's really important, Mobile Gamer made a video about this a while back, and whenever there is a mass assist, the order in which characters attack is going to be what they appear in your squad. So for example, right here for my Geonosian lineup, Geonosian Brood Alpha, if he were to attack first, then in order of call to assist, Sun Fac would go, then Soldier, then Spy, then Poggle. It always goes in order that they're placed in the squad. So squad order actually does matter. Some teams it matters more than others. And there are other mechanics that play into squad order as well today. I'm going to go through a list of different squads where squad order can potentially matter. Talk about the reasons why you would want to set the squad order that way. If you have any thoughts or have any other squads that I missed, be sure to make them in the comments whenever you like and hit the subscribe button. See what I did there? All right, let's go ahead and get started. So probably first, the most important one are the Geonosians. Really important for the Geonosian event to get Wat Tambor. And this is the order that you want. You want Geonosian Brood Alpha to be first, so he has the leader ability. Sun Fac needs to go next because Sun Fac's basic is going to dispel all buffs on your enemy. Then you want Soldier to go because then he's going to inflict tenacity down. So Geonosian Brood Alpha goes, dispel all buffs, tenacity down, Spy just gonna attack, but then you want Poggle in the last spot, so he has the best possible chance to inflict that ability block, and that's really, really important for the Wat Tambor mission. So this is really the ideal lineup you want to go. Basically, you're gonna see a theme going throughout this video. Anytime you have someone that can dispel all buffs, you want them in the second slot. You want them dispelling all of the buffs before everyone else goes, which hopefully makes sense. So anyways, Geonosians, no fancy stuff. That's the reason why. All right, now for our next one. It's going to be Jedi Knight Revan and the Jedi. And here, it's not necessarily so much about the attack order, but for this one, you're going to want Jolee in the second spot, because one of the common uses of Jedi is to use them against General Grievous. I personally try not to use Jedi Knight Revan against General Grievous because I've seen it go wrong, and personally it's gone wrong for me. But I've seen it go wrong so many times. It's not a hard counter. It's definitely, I would call it a soft counter. I've seen it go wrong so many times. And the reason is, you can see General Grievous, once you kill off the first droid, he does his AoE. He can smash a whole bunch of your Jedi at once. And suppose that a bunch of your Jedi, including Jolee, die at the same time. The revive mechanic from Savior will bring back the first person in the order. So if, say, for instance, Jolee, Grandmaster Yoda, and Bastila all die at the same time, Jolee would activate the Savior first. He would get the first priority. So whoever's in this spot is going to activate the Savior. So you want Jolee first, because then should a whole bunch of your team die at once, he will come back, and then, that 1 in 50 chance or 1 in whatever chance it is, he'll bring back the rest of your team. So that's the strategy there behind this turn order. Now next is for Padme. And Padme, the big one, is very similar to the Geonosian one. You want Ahsoka in that number 2 slot, because if Ahsoka's in the number 2 slot, then she is going to dispel all debuffs. That's especially important if you're going to be running C-3PO or R2-D2, because their basic are going to inflict debuffs, and you don't want them to have tenacity up or any other sort of buffs that are going to inhibit you from landing those debuffs. So the really important one is Ahsoka being in the number 2 slot. For either of these mass call to assist, you just want Ahsoka to be in there first. So, or I guess second if Kenobi's conscious. Anyway, Ahsoka needs to be in the second slot. That is most important. Now let's move on down here to the nightsisters. This one I've heard a little bit of discrepancy back and forth on how this goes. This is how I would set the team up, is Mother Talzin first, and then Nightsister Zombie, then Old Daka, Asajj, and Nightsister Spirit. And there are 2 reasons to set this up in this way. The one discrepancy I've heard is you should switch the turn order of Old Daka and Nightsister Zombie. I disagree. I think Zombie should go first, but to each their own. Now, Nightsister Zombie, very much like Jedi Knight Revan, is going to have that revive mechanic. And so you want, in my opinion, you want Old Daka in there after Zombie so that, again, should these 3 die, Old Daka is guaranteed to come back. So you want her to be activated by the revive first. Now, why do I want Zombie in the second spot? So that she can inflict tenacity down. Both of these characters are going to attempt to inflict stun. Nightsister Spirit's going to attempt to inflict speed down. So you want Zombie in there getting that tenacity down as early on as possible so that these guys have their best chance of landing their stuns. So that is why I would go ahead and put Zombie in the second spot. Now, one that was not in Mobile Gamer's video, I don't believe, it's been a while since I've watched it, was First Order because it was before General Hux. Now, General Hux has the call to assist, and what's important to know on that one is if you're running, this really only matters if you're running First Order Stormtrooper, because First Order Stormtrooper, his basic ability is going to dispel all buffs. So it's the same thing that you've heard this whole time. If First Order Stormtrooper has advantage, which a lot of the time they do, dispel all buffs from the target. So not all the time is he going to dispel buffs, but often enough, I would say it's worthwhile to have him in that second spot. After that, I would put Kylo in the third spot to inflict tenacity down. Why Kylo in the third spot and not these other two? I mean, it doesn't really matter after that. I just have these two in here. First Order Executioner, I say that because he is going to, if the target is debuffed, the attack is guaranteed to be a critical hit, while the tenacity down is a debuff. And then with Kylo Ren, on his, you're going to get a 75% chance to inflict healing immunity and damage over time. That is just keep that down there so First Order Stormtrooper can hopefully dispel all buffs before Kylo Ren gets a chance to go. You could flip-flop these. Doesn't really matter. Perhaps it would be a better idea to flip-flop these so that First Order Executioner has the best chance to be behind someone that's landing debuffs. Aside from that, from the First Order, I don't necessarily think there's any other magic behind the turn order. I don't think it really matters. I think these three are the ones you want to worry about. So that's the First Order. All right, so next let's talk about the bounty hunters. And the most important part about the bounty hunters would be, number one is if you're running Embo, you want Embo to be in your second spot because Embo's basic is going to dispel all buffs. So especially important if you're fighting someone that's going to have like tenacity up. You're definitely going to want him in the second spot so he can dispel the tenacity up, because then you're going to want someone here that's going to inflict some sort of debuff, IG-88, Boba Fett, whoever you've got that's going to inflict debuffs. You want them to be in this third slot. Ideally, Boss can land a stun, but you never know. And then the important thing is you're going to want Jango Fett and Dengar to be in the last slot. Jango because if someone lands a debuff, then he's going to get to attack a second time. And then Dengar because if someone is debuffed whenever he attacks, then he might get to call an ally to assist. With his basic, deal physical damage to target enemy. If target is suffering from any debuffs, there is a 60% chance to call an ally to assist. So it's not guaranteed, but still you definitely want to have that best chance possible. So for example, if he was in second spot, they might not have any debuffs by that point, so you might not get to call in an assist. So for bounty hunters, that's what I think is probably most important, is going to be have Embo in the second spot if you're using Embo. If not, just have two characters that can hopefully inflict some debuffs, and then Jango and Dengar at the end. Ewoks, not a lot of magic here. The big one that I would say is you just want Paplu to be in the second spot for any call to assist. Obviously, Chief Chirpa is ideal. I just don't have Chief Chirpa. But Paplu in the second spot for any mass assist because he's going to dispel all debuffs. No magic there. Now, with regard to the clones, I'm not honestly sure at this point in time if the fives bug was ever fixed. But the only reason that I brought this one in here is because there was at one point a bug where if fives was not in the last slot whenever tactical awareness was activated because someone else died, they didn't get all of the buffs or all of his stats. So even if it's fixed, it's just in my mind now. So fives always stays in the back. So that's the only one that really matters out of that, is just keeping fives in the back. Next up for your Imperial troopers, my Imperial troopers are absolute garbage. But they added Admiral Piet. He doesn't really matter so much because it doesn't matter where he attacks in here. I would just say the important one is to have Colonel Stark in the second spot because he can inflict defense down. So have Colonel Stark in there in the second spot so he can inflict defense down, so these guys can deal as much damage as possible. I have Death Trooper in the last spot just because he inflicts daze, put him at the back so he has the best chance, but you know, these guys aren't really dispelling any debuffs, so it doesn't actually matter. Next up, we have the Rebel Fighters. And the only Rebel Fighter that I would say actually matters where they're at is if you have Pow in here. I would put Pow at the end, preferably behind Baze, or if you have any other Rebel Fighters that are going to be inflicting any debuffs, because he is going to attack a second time if the target you're attacking has any debuffs. So hopefully put someone in there that can inflict a debuff in front of Pow so he can attack multiple times. That's really, I think, the most important part of the turn order. Out of all of your Rebel Fighters you could put together, I think that's probably the most important one to mention. Next one up is going to be the Scourges, and so from the solo movie Scourges, the way that I think is important, and this is only going to be sometimes because Kira is only going to call all Scourge allies to assist if they are prepared, right? So grant all other prepared allies defense penetration up for 3 turns and call them to assist, and Kira is no longer prepared. So if they're not all prepared, then obviously this turn order isn't going to work. But supposing, for sake of argument, that everyone is prepared, you're going to want Enfys Nest in the second spot because deal physical damage to target enemy, expose them for 1 turn, and if the target had any defensive buffs, dispel them. This attack cannot be evaded. So dispel some defensive buffs and grant expose. Now, the third slot is going to be almost as important, and I would put in here either young Han or young Lando, depending on who you're running with this team, because they're probably going to deal the most damage, and you want someone who's dealing the most damage to be attacking after Enfys Nest. She's going to land the expose, so you want someone with high damage to take advantage of the expose. I would run young Han in there next. After that, Vandor Chewbacca, I guess I would run next. He is going to ignore defense, so the expose doesn't really matter so much. He's also probably not going to be your highest damage dealer, so I wouldn't worry so much about Vandor Chewbacca. And then depending on who you're running, if you're running L3, her basic ability is going to inflict defense down, and like I said, I wouldn't worry about running L3 in front of Vandor Chewbacca because he's going to ignore defense anyway. So defense down is not going to affect his attack at all. And that is how I would run my solo squad. Then let's see, last one up on the list is going to be Separatists. And I know you can mix and match which Separatists are going to go in here. I think the important one in here is going to be having Count Dooku go second, so he can hopefully land a stun, an ability block, have these other guys in here also go, and then Jango needs to be last for the same reasons with the bounty hunters, because if someone else manages to land a debuff in here first, then Jango is going to attack a second time. And that's really the magic behind that. Guys, that's all I got. I wanted to make this as brief as possible. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you did, please drop a like. If you're aware of any other mass assist turn order stuff that I left out that you think is important, please let everyone know down in the comments so we can all be aware of mass assist orders. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please like, subscribe for any more new videos or live streams, hit the notification bell so you get notifications for those, and we will talk to you guys in a later video. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.